This is your host, Shylo, and you are tuning in to Grit and Grace. Real people, real conversations, and real grit. Einstein was a shit show. Coffee, Gummy Bears, and all the things on the next episode of Grit and Grace. I'm Shylo. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I am really happy to have one of my close friends, personal friend for many years, Tiffany Campbell. She is on here with me. She is an absolute rock star. She is a healer, a mama. She is in the corporate world, but hoping to get out of there soon. And she has just done some incredible things, but honestly has helped me tremendously. And the reason I wanted her on here today is because of all the help she has given me, not only with our friendship, but over the last few weeks and even a couple months. She has helped heal me in so many ways. She's an emotion code practitioner, and she's got a lot of other things under her belt. So I'm going to let her say hello to y'all and share with us, Tiffany. Give us a little bit of the bio broken down for somebody who doesn't know you really quick. You have a lot of qualifications. And I want you to share, like, what would be your top, if you were just to go like 30-minute elevator pitch, what do you do and how do you help others?
Okay, so thank you so much, Shylo, for having me on today. So I always like to talk about my background. As you can tell from the accent, I'm from Alabama. And a lot of people always pick up on that. But when I started in college, I became a mechanical engineer. And then I went on and became, rising the corporate ladder at a rapid pace, and went back and got my executive MBA. I got to travel to Sweden and Germany and Amsterdam, all across the US. And about 5 years ago, somebody mentioned the law of attraction. I'll be honest. The engineer in me was like, there is no way that energy, our thoughts project what's going to happen to us in the future. And so I set out to disprove it. I dove in and researched it and was blown away by just implementing some simple practices, affirmations, thinking positive versus allowing the negativity to come in, that my life gradually started changing. The things that I thought were impossible slowly started coming in. And so I became a law of attraction life coach. Like attracts like, that just means what you put your thoughts into, that's what you're going to receive. So if you're constantly thinking, I don't have enough money, my bills are too high, you're going to keep getting more and more of that. But if you think I am an abundant, I can do these things and continue on my path, that's what you're going to get also. Mm-hmm. So from there, I started looking into like quantum physics and started learning about Reiki. So I became a Reiki Master teacher. I'm the type that I go big or go home. I don't do anything small. And so I immersed myself with that. So it took me 18 months to get my law of attraction certification. Then I did another 10-month program to do Reiki. So the certifications that I have is not just some online course that you get a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. I had to do case studies and submit all of those for those two programs. And anyway, Reiki, I was able to tap into people. And a lot of people don't really understand what that means. But it's basically saying, hey, Shylo, can I get your Wi-Fi password to your body so I can just gradually tap into that energy to see what I'm going to receive?
So let's stop there though, because a lot of people hear Reiki and they don't get it. I think that was the best explanation, because I go through all these healings as well, and I'm not certified. I've just had it done to me. But when you try to explain it, people are like, that's some foo-foo stuff. And that's like, no, it really works. But I think a lot of people just have a hard time understanding what the heck is that stuff. And then I also want to point out, okay, this is a person who, you've got all these degrees and masters. Masters, you were on the science side. But I feel, and truly have always felt this, and people don't have to agree, that all this goes with each other. And we could even bring the God particle into this, and we could bring God and science, and we could go like this. I'm very much, they're one in another, like they're together. And I think a lot of people want to separate it because they don't think that you can have one without the other. I think it's absolutely false. You have to have one without the other. Like it's the opposite and negative. You got to have one and the other. Good, evil, you know, all that stuff. It's the same thing. And the law of attraction applies too. For every, you know, whatever it is, I think it's Einstein or whatever the quantum theory is. Anyways, you have to have one with the other. And so I think it's really important to know that you come from this super strong science, knowledge, all this over here. And now we're getting into spirituality and we're getting into these different types of theories, and it really all balances out. I think it's really important because, okay, so here's another thing. How did I meet you? I met you in a network marketing company.
Yes. Yes.
So before all this, let's go into this nitty gritty before. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, I hear all about these healers, and you have been certified like incredibly. Like there's a lot of healers out there that do the online thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes down to really having the knowledge, it's very important. And Tiffany is extremely, extremely knowledgeable in what she's doing. But I mean, you got started in a network marketing company. So a side hustle, you were doing that. I met you, I think we were sitting at a bar. We were talking about like your team and doing some fun things. I think you were doing some leggings as well. We were doing like wellness leggings. We were doing like, it was like everything. Like I'm doing it all. But you're also an incredible wife and an incredible mama. And I think it's important for people to know that you come from everyday background. Like you have these incredible abilities. I think a lot of people have these abilities. Maybe it's not in the spiritual healing world, but I think for everybody listening, it's important to know that you might be hearing this story, but there's a whole story before the story. And everything kind of lines up. So you've got all this stuff going, you go get certified, and now I hadn't talked to you in a while. So I was watching this journey and I'm like, what is she doing? Because this wasn't her gig. And so to watch you kind of go like, I'm getting into the healing world. And I'm like, really? That's interesting, which is fantastic because I support that. But then watching this, what's about to be talked about, this empire of healing. And I think that's what's really important for people that are listening or watching. Like, this lady's legit. Like, you've got it going on, and you added some really incredible tools to your belt. So let's kind of talk about that. And I want to know your thought processes while you were going through this. You don't just decide to do this one day and then jump in. What was happening with your clients? What was happening to you where you started seeing this? Like you believed it. I think that's important.
Yeah. So like you said, we met in network marketing, and I was very successful with that. And I was just, even climbing that as my little side gig there. But there was something missing. From the outside looking in, I had my corporate career, a wonderful husband, a little girl. I had the side business, growing my connections all over the U.S. with that. And I was depressed. So I was not happy with myself. And I was like, I couldn't understand that, like from the outside looking in, I had the perfect life. So why was I so miserable on the inside? So that's the point where I was like, there has to be more to life. Surely to God, and yes, God, my mission was not to come here to work my whole life, run my body down, and be miserable. Like, I believe that we are we're meant to heal ourselves. I believe God created our bodies to heal. And I had to get to that point where, I was taking, medication for depression. I was taking medication for anxiety. I was physically sick. Like, I went through 6 months of going from specialist to specialist, trying to figure out why I was so sick. I had lost like 30 something pounds in a month by not trying. But what I had learned was I had basically abused ibuprofen because of migraine headaches, and I had killed my stomach. So I had killed a piece of my body that is supposed to help me thrive. So that's when I turned to the holistic side of things. And a lot of people, I'm glad that you brought up, God and science can come together, because a lot of people ask me, do you believe in God? Well, I'm from Alabama. I'm in the Bible Belt. I grew up in Southern Baptist. I was a Southern Baptist. And I've learned more about God and his ability to heal us on faith, more on this healing journey than I really ever did in church. I've talked to people a lot, actually, and I'm like, well, what does God say to you when you pray? Because again, when I was going through my struggles, it was, why me, God? Why am I depressed? Why am I sick? How do I read this Bible and you want me to have hope and faith? But it's like every different turn is leading me further down the hill. And that's when my faith started increasing. Reiki is a Japanese healing modality. They don't use Western meds. Now, do I still go to the doctor? Absolutely. Do I still take medications prescribed? Absolutely. Like, that's something that I believe, again, it's a holistic approach. You can't say holistic health is the 100% way to go, or Western med is 100%, or going to this church or this church is 100%. Like, you have to accumulate everything and ask God to lead you where to go. And that's kind of where I felt led.
I like that. I think, and I know when we first got started, we never know where this is going to go. But I think this is really important, because I think we have a lot of people right now being pulled in so many directions. We hear science, science, science. And of course I believe in science. I mean, hello. But it's okay to believe in both. I think there is this cultural push and pull right now. And it happens like every 100 years. I swear to God, there's like this thing that happens every 100 years where we're like, no, it's this. I think it's important for people to know that it's okay to believe in both. And I think, when you really dive into some of this, you really do see God in the science. And it's just like wild. Like, and you don't even have to be a believer to start seeing it. I've had people who claim to be atheists who come out of that and they're like, no, actually going into the science, I did see it. Like, I could tell that there was God present. And it's so interesting, because I think that, we're in a kind of a tough time where, Christians are being put back on the chopping block a little bit. And to say that you're a Christian or say that you even believe in God is like, well, it's not that it's poo-pooed as much, but it's definitely, there are people getting hurt for it, and I think it's important to talk about this stuff, that you can have both and you don't have to be this one-sided. Okay, so let's talk about the emotion code, because this is the reason I brought you on. Not only that, because I think you deserve to be highlighted. You deserve to be like, people need to know who you are, but this is really passionate to me. So I've had some really interesting things go on in the last few years, obviously life, all this, but over my lifetime, generational curses. And if people don't understand what that is, we can kind of go into that. Some things that have been locked away and causing physical pain, causing emotional pain, causing all the plethora of problems, blocks with money, blocks with work, blocks with marriage or relationships. These are things that people, they're in this cycle. And I know I am, like, I own it. I'm a shit show. And I say that to everybody. Like, I'm not afraid to say I'm a shit show, because I have to. Otherwise, I would just be living a lie. And it's like, I needed something. And I'm very much into the healing world, but I've never done the emotion code healing until you had presented it. And I had heard about it from a girlfriend of mine, a mutual friend, Amanda Smith. And she had thought about getting certified in this, did not, but you did. And you are an incredible healer, specifically in this area. So let's talk about what the heck that is, because it sounds weird. Yeah. 100% is incredible. So what the heck is emotion code? What is it going to do for somebody? But exactly that process, because it's wild, and how quickly it works. Like, it's quick.
Yes. So basically, from the time we were born until, we're here today, we've accumulated emotions. When we don't allow our bodies to process what we're feeling, we stuff it down, and those emotions become trapped. Everything is energy. Your thoughts are energy. Your feelings are energy. The cars we drive, it's all energy. Our bodies are energy. So what's happening is, let's say when you're 5 years old, you feel unsupported. Well, that emotion, because especially as children, when I'm working with people, most trapped emotions come up from early childhood because we're told to, be seen but not heard. We're told it's not okay to cry in front of others or not to pitch the fits, right? I have an 8-year-old, so I'm like seeing this in a whole different level right now myself. But basically, we trap these emotions. Well, the older we get, you have these accumulations of trapped emotions, this energy in your body, and it starts causing physical pain. One of the most fascinating things I found, though, is we can inherit trapped emotions, and those can go back many generations. So let's just say your great, great, great grandmother was very insecure. Maybe something was happening in her family. She stuffed it down. Well, through the years, that emotion can be passed on to your children. And so a lot of times when I'm working with a client, I go in and see, is there anything inherited? Because let's say insecurity you inherited, but you don't even know what insecurity is. You can't even describe to somebody what you're feeling because you were born with it. But again, what the emotion code does is I go through and I identify those trapped emotions and then I release them. And basically, when I say I release them, I bring up enough information for your conscious mind to feel safe enough to let that go from your body. It's energy. Like we have a governing meridian, and I'll just kind of use my head as an example. Like when I'm working with somebody, I'm just kind of swiping my governing meridian 3 times, it's more about the intention, setting the intention that that emotion is going to leave your body for good. Now, that does not mean that that same emotion won't come up in different situations. So I always focus on a situation. If somebody has relationship problems, I'm focused on the relationship itself, what trapped emotions are there from the relationship. I've worked with you on some shoulder pain. So I focus, what trapped emotions are in Shylo's shoulder, I identify them, and then I release them. Another quick thing I would like to mention, this is different than, say, talk therapy in the sense that the emotion is immediately gone. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to relive it. Like, I know, Shylo, when I've worked with you, I would be like, is something coming to your mind? I don't have to know what it is, because as long as you know and I muscle test and say, yep, that's it, I confirm your thoughts, it's something that you don't even have to go into details with a practitioner about.
Yeah, that's really nice, because the thing is like when we're talking about really quick results, we're not talking about like over weeks or whatever, and we're not talking about it. So she goes through, and this is a very interesting process. She's talking to you. You don't always have to respond, if not ever. I mean, a lot of the times it's just she's saying it out loud. But like with my shoulder, there are things that will flare it up, and it's all emotion based. It is. And so I know this because she has relieved the pain within 1 minute. Within 1 minute, it could be at a 10 and it'll go down to about a 3. And like, I know what's happening, and I know she's got it, and it releases. And so I know there's a lot of people who are hesitant to understand this, and they may be like, absolutely not. Here's what I would suggest. I would suggest actually doing it and getting a session in and, trying this out, because we found curses. People don't have to believe in that, but there's curses. Also generational. Explain to people who might not understand this part, because I have listeners of all different kinds of backgrounds and beliefs. What would a generational curse be? Or generational traumas? What does that mean for somebody who may not understand it, but if you explain it, I think there's a lot of people who might go, oh my gosh, I know that's what's going on. Because it is for me. When I learned about generational traumas and generational curses, there were a lot of things that instantly came to my head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm carrying my father's, my grandfather's weights, my mother's. I wasn't thinking that way. I was thinking it was my fault and everything. And I'm not saying you're going and blaming other people, but let's explain that to people. I think that's a big one. I think a lot of people carry around traumas that are not theirs, but they're definitely using them as theirs. And it's something to let go.
Yes. So, and a couple of different things come to mind, like alcoholism. Somebody may struggle with alcohol and they think that it's just because of everything they've went through, but it's actually hereditary. If you look back generations, whatever first started that in the family lineage is transferred from child to child to child. And then you just have this inherently in you and you don't understand it. Another example, I have a client and it's anorexia. You know, she had been anorexic her whole life. She couldn't understand why. She loved food, but yet there was something there. Well, then when we found out that she inherited that, I was asking her, well, was your mother anorexic? And she said, oh, yes, and my grandmother and her mother. So it is something that a lot of times we think that it's us. You know, financial troubles could be the same thing. You know, you could grow up in an atmosphere middle class, but you have these visions of getting ahead and building an empire and, you know, all this abundance flowing to you. But it could be that you inherited different trapped emotions from your lineage that's basically blocking that. It's preventing it because, again, you were born with it. Does that answer some of your question?
No, it makes sense. I think a lot of people, and they're like, well, it's because it runs in my family. Yes, it does run in your family. So acknowledge it, because I think there's more emotion behind it than it's actual, like people want to say it's in my DNA. Correct. The emotion is in there. The emotion is in there. So what, again, science all comes through with this. Yes, it is traveling with you. But again, we emotionally tie it to ourselves sometimes, and we have to be able to release our families to get to the nitty gritty of our own. Once we release theirs, all that comes off. You know, releasing my grandfather and my dad. My dad was an alcoholic. My grandfather was an alcoholic. Both died of alcoholism. They did. And so always carrying that with me was very stressful. So when I started struggling with alcohol, it was tearing me apart, because it was like it went from 0 to 100. Like, I'm like, I'm aware, I know, you know, and then it was like, but all this stuff. So when we release the emotions behind the past traumas, and I've worked on this for a couple of years, but really digging in with you and digging in with even Amanda and some other healers on different levels. So I kind of go into your area, then I go over here and here, is because, and then also have support. But it's like, it's amazing what happens when you release that. It's still, you still have stuff there. This doesn't cure things that are not
right.
But it changes it, and it changes all the lineage and the ties behind it, and releases it from your future, like from the future of your family, like releasing it from your children. So we work with children too. So you do work with children, and even my kids. You've done some things, and this is all virtual, you all. Like she's not there, you know. It's done on the phone, or you know, if we wanted to do this, but you don't even have to see each other. It's just done over the phone. I think that's really important, and it's really, really it's nice for people to be able to tap in. Okay, so what is the next, I would say, year looking like for you? What are your projects? What are your goals? I know you want to get out maybe of the corporate world. I'm not sure, but you know, what do you want to do with that? Not that that's bad. Everybody loves jobs, and there's nothing wrong, but there's things people want to do to expand. So what's next for you?
Well, I just recently joined an organization called the Inside Out Institute, and it's bringing the conscious healing and the subconscious healing together. And the way to describe that, so I've had the subconscious healing, right? I'm an emotion code, body code. So I did take the emotion code a step further, to where I also go in and see, you know, what's going on in the body, if there's disconnections, if there's misalignments. So it's not just about, you know, the emotional side of things, but I'm starting to tap into issues with people. Like, I look at it like this: people come to me as a last resort a lot of times, and I'm okay with that, because as soon as they start seeing results, I'm super excited that they found me, right? But one of the things that I joined this Inside Out Institute, and like I said, I've had the healing on the conscious side, I've had the healing on the subconscious side, but bringing those together. So I've been with them about 8 weeks now. My life, the way I look at things, has radically changed. So it's almost like riding the unicycle. You know, you're going in circles, you're pedaling as fast as you can, you're trying your dangest to get ahead in life, but you're only using, say, one modality. But now we're going to upgrade to the bicycle. We're going to do conscious healing and subconscious healing together, and getting that support system, now you can really get somewhere in life. So because I experienced such dramatic changes, I joined as a partner. So I'm actually going to be working with them and helping people on the global scale. So that is the next year. I'm extremely excited about being a part of this organization. It's not even a year old yet. Todd Cahill, he's the CEO. He wrote the book You versus You. So it's going in and looking at you versus every area of your life: finances, calendar, schedule, relationships, your future, your knowledge. Like there's all these battles that we all face. And so that's the conscious side. Emmanuel Vassallos, he is an emotion code, body code practitioner. He's been doing this work for 7 years. If you type in emotion code, body code on YouTube, I would say 90% of the videos is going to be Emmanuel. And so he's the chief healing officer. So there is just an amazing like family atmosphere here. And it's all about healing and helping people heal. So for the next year, I'm more than excited about this journey.
I like that. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the last year. So clearly the need for healers and spiritual guides and all of this is high. Okay. So as a healer during a pandemic, a global pandemic, what would you say you saw the most of? What would you say was happening in your world where you're like, wow, it just stood out and you're like, holy smokes, I need to be here? Or, what was going on with your clients? Let's talk about that. I think I'm more interested in what was going on during this pandemic with you.
Well, for all of my clients, what I started noticing was there was a lot more physical pain in the body, but it all originated from the anxiety and the depression due to COVID. The people that I worked with say prior to COVID, it was more of that emotional, mental, I want to get ahead in life, what's blocking me, to then it kind of started switching: relationship problems, extreme anxiety, severe depression even, and then the physical pain that comes along with that. Like once I could start clearing out the emotional, mental pieces of it, they started feeling better. But some people, they're used to going to the gym every day. The gyms are shut down. People were used to the social atmosphere. All the restaurants were shut down. So it really did take a lot of people and just like hit them hard. For me, my company made my job work from home and permanent, and I'm like thrilled. Like I love working from home, but right. Then you've got my husband on the opposite side. Like it still drives him crazy. He's begged to go back into the office. So once a week he gets to go to work in an office. So it does affect everybody differently. Like I never realized how much some people thrive going into an office setting, and then how depressed and anxious they became not having that social interaction.
It's really interesting when I was thinking about it. We talked, I had an episode last week about, the increase, like the alcoholism went way up, addiction, all that, because obviously you got people who are stuck at home who've never been stuck at home. All the outlets were shut down. Relationships were tested on every level. Like you see these. So with some of it was extreme blessings. Like you saw people who wanted to go home, got to go home. There was a lot of blessings that I saw in my own life, like holy smokes, I got to take time and be with the kids and have dinners every night with them. That's all we did. We cooked all the time. We were always doing stuff together. It was like the family was such a family. There was a unit there, and it continued. Like it was really good. We saw the positives in that. We were blessed that we didn't stop working. Me and my husband did not stop working to do this. He slowed down for maybe 3 weeks, but that was it. I mean, he was still very busy in the construction world. Mine is an online business. It blew up. So it was a blessing for us, but there were a lot of things, even in my own personal life, that were unveiled. And so I think it's really interesting to see what a rapid shift in what we do can have on the emotional part of it. For me, I quit drinking, which was a blessing. I had to handle a lot of that emotional, work through that healing. My outlets were working out, yoga. That was ripped away from me. I managed to work out at home, but like, I think about the people who went through this total shift. Everybody in the world went through this, and the anxiety. And then you add the political climate, which I've talked about several times, and all the wild stuff that was going on. We were putting people in a pressure cooker.
Yes.
But in a way, that is the best place to be when you're ready, because you get to tackle it and you get to finally heal it if you choose so. I think that's important for our listeners to hear. You might be feeling anxiety and you might be feeling awful. Like, you might still be dealing with a lot of that stuff, because it's not over. I mean, we're still dealing with shifts, changes.
Oh yeah.
We've got so much going on. Political climate's just as bad as it was. Nothing's changing, but this is an opportunity to grab that feeling and heal it once and for all. And I think that's what's important, is this is the time. I think you're going to see, and I know that you're probably in this space too, with healers and everybody you're surrounded by, we're seeing an increase on a massive scale of people who are seeking the healing, people who are actually getting better, and people who are coming into their powers or their strengths. We are getting more healers. The healers are stepping out. People with abilities are coming into their own power. They're stepping into their higher powers, which is incredible to see. And I've been watching that with friends. I mean, I'm seeing people just do incredible things. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Including you. And so somebody listening right now going, I'm ready. Maybe they're ready to do what you do, because there are people who are, they know that they have the abilities, or they need some help, or they're like, I want this. Let's talk about that. How do we find Tiffany? I want you to give them that information. I want them, how do you find you real quick? So we can, if somebody's listening, they're like, I got to do it now, they can find you quick. And then maybe a guide to, if you're open to, looking into the Institute, maybe some information there, because I know that's important as well.
Yes. So on Facebook, it's Tiffany Campbell. If you'll just look at Healing with Tiff, with 2 F's in that, Healing with Tiff, that's my Facebook business page. You can also find me on Instagram. It's actually healing_with_Tiff. And, I'm always open to a phone call. Like, that's the best method for me. It's like, if somebody reach out, wants information, I like to get to know people too, because I think it's important. A lot of people that come to me, again, it's a last resort. They don't really know what they need. Like, I recently opened a shop in my local area here and took a huge leap. Will people be drawn to this, or will they not? I don't know, but I knew I couldn't sit back and not at least offer that. And people come in and they're like, Tiffany, I don't know what I need. I don't know what I want, but I want to be better. I want to feel better. I want to have my confidence back. So again, having that conversation, because again, like you mentioned, I have different modalities. It may be law of attraction, it may be Reiki, but emotion code, body code is my favorite modality, because it's so quick and people experience like you said, decreases in pain within a minute. People are simply shocked by that too. They're like, I just felt the pain. Where did it go? But yes, Instagram and Facebook. I am in the process of creating a website, but if you find me on Facebook or Instagram, you'll be able to find my contact information there.
That's awesome. And, randomly, I mentioned gummy bears at the beginning of this. We're going into totally random thoughts. During the entire process over the last year, I got these weird quirks. Like, me and my kids started buying these 3-pound bag of gummy bears. Like, it's kind of silly, but I love them. I put them in the fridge and I eat them. So there's times where I'm on the podcast and I forget, and I'm eating gummy bears, and I'm like, you got to stop doing that. Like, you can't do that. And I always have a Starbucks. So yesterday, this is super funny, and I'm not even trying to advertise Starbucks, but I totally will, because I have no shame. I never used to get ventis, because I'm like, I can't have the calories. But when I quit drinking, this became like, this, you can have a treat, right? So I reward myself with a Starbucks each day. But I was on the treadmill yesterday, and I took a picture, and I was like this, and I did a little boomerang, and I had my Starbucks in the cup holders. So when he saw it, and they're like, you have Starbucks on your treadmill? I'm like, whatever, don't judge me. I was just doing a walk. My water's there. I have water too. I drink water. So Do you have any weird quirks or things that you developed during this last year? Because everybody started, their habits changed, you know, like what were my little habits that I got into? And working out was incredible for me and it really helped. But I did get some more Starbucks habits. And then I added some gummy bear habits.
Oh, well, mine was Little Debbie became my best friend.
We love Little Debbie.
Little Debbie was there through it all. You know, if I was having an emotional day, she was there to support me. If I was having a bad day, she was there to support me.
And it's so funny, and I know we're recording and Chelsea's on here. She's always listening. We always got Chelsea. Chelsea, if you are listening, did you have a weird quirk? What was yours? Like food or something goofy? Everybody has.
I know. I'm trying to think what my weird quirk was. Definitely some kind of food.
Yeah. It was like survival skills. Mine was gummy bears.
I loved my guilty pleasure for food once this happened, which I could find them out in Texas all the time, is the nitro Takis.
What is that? What is that?
It's like a spicy, like almost like a Dorito chip. But I go crazy over them. It's awful. I only buy them when I know it's okay for me to eat the entire bag, because if I'm buying the bag, I will eat the entire thing.
Oh my God, isn't that funny? Like, I know there is a lot of people who are like, have these secret like habits they developed, and we're all working on it. But like when I see people like, I gained 30 pounds, you know, I get it. I get how people gain weight during this. Like I'm so grateful I actually lost weight, but in the beginning I gained. In the beginning I was still gaining a little bit of weight. And I was like, oh my God, I got to check myself before I wreck myself. And it's serious. It's serious. Like, I think that's funny. But I did like weird stuff. Like I had my little routine at night. The cool thing was I learned French. So was there anything, okay, I'll ask you to this. One positive, what was the positive that came out of quarantine for you or COVID? What was, you know, besides the healing, mine was learning French. Every night I learned French. I still do it. What about you, Tiff?
Well, for me, I got into meditation heavy. And I started, because again, working, I was on the road 3 hours a day, driving back and forth to work. So I didn't have the time. So COVID forced me to slow down. And when I became slower, I was like, what do I do with my time now? Because I'm a busybody. I mean, I have been for years. I'm always on the go. But it really forced me to just kind of take a step back. I've started reading, you know, even if it's 10 pages a day of an inspirational book. I started meditating a couple of times a day, and people think, you know, meditating is this long, drawn out process. I did too. I do 5-minute guided meditations on YouTube a couple of times a day. And just taking that 5 minutes could rapidly change your mindset. Like, I will throw that out there. Do a 5-minute meditation a couple of times a day and just see how that helps you.
That's awesome. You know, something I gave up that was healthy. Also, you know, obviously alcohol, but I also gave up pop culture. I stopped watching Hollywood. I was over it, and I stopped watching the news. I didn't do it right away because I went down the rabbit hole a couple times. Like I went way down the rabbit hole with some stuff, and it was stuff I still believe. Some of it was crazy. I mean, I was watching stuff, and I'm like, whoa. That's when I had to stop, because I'm like, whoa, this is wrecking my days. Like it would wreck my days, because I was seeing some wild stuff. But I just said, you know what, Hollywood, you got me through childhood. I can't do this right now. And I kind of washed my hands of Hollywood for a while. I'm not saying I hate Hollywood. I'm disappointed in some things, but I had to let go of pop culture. I didn't care what the celebrity's doing. I don't care who's getting divorced. I just didn't care. I'm like, my life is more important than this. And I let go of the news in the summer. I couldn't do it anymore. And that doesn't mean I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't wrapping myself around it. So I think for me, I gave up Hollywood, pop culture, and the news, and it was a lifesaver. Because it was
I definitely gave up the news too. I mean, you talk about, you know, if you're trying to be positive and uplifting, especially to others, that sends you into fear-based mentality, and there is nothing that's going to quicker take you down than immersing yourself in that.
Oh my gosh. And I watched people totally lose it on social media. I lost it one time on social media, and it was an epic fail. But I had one moment. I was watching people wreck themselves. Like I'm saying, like and relationships and like friendships. And you're like, oh my gosh, we just got to stop this. And I understood it because I'm like, I'm emotional too. Like, I'm really emotional about this. But I finally had to stop and go, I'm not fixing this. Being a social media warrior was doing nothing. And it was, I think a lot of people kind of had a moment for a while after the initial, I think when the riots were happening, it was tough. It was really tough. Nobody wants to see that. No matter what side you're on, it was just so tough to be, this is what's happening right now in our world. And it was watching friends hurting and watching people just so sad. And so I had to pull away from it. And I learned to stop engaging completely. Is it worth it? Is it worth being right in someone's comment? No. And if you don't like it, scroll on by. I think I really had to practice that, but it really helped me with my own emotional intelligence. And I think it was a good place to practice. I've seen a lot of people work on it. Like, they may not say it out loud that they're working on it, but you can tell. You can see people who are reacting, maybe 6 months ago, a year ago, where they're like, I think I'm going to hold off because I'm not saving the world by being on Facebook, like in arguments. And I know it gets heated, but I think we all have to practice that. And I think for me, this was a good time for me to take those breaths, step back, and just accept that it's happening. You don't have to like it, but you don't have to be a warrior on the keyboard because it's not helping you. It's not changing it. If you want to change something, go change it. You know what I mean? Like, step in it and be part of the process.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that a lot. I don't know how you felt about that, but there was definitely some really interesting times.
Yeah. And even Facebook, like, I just had to stop going to people's pages, like if something set me off. Again, but that goes back to that law of attraction, like attracts like. If all you're focused on is the negative post or being involved in that, you're going to keep seeing more and more of that. I started going and looking for the uplifting posts, the people that were posting, say, Bible scripture, the people who were posting videos of the cute puppies that made you feel warm and fuzzy, on the inside. Then I started seeing more and more of that. So I know sometimes people will call, oh my gosh, did you see this on the news? Did you hear what happened? And I'm like, no, and I really don't care to know because I'm in a good space right now.
Well, I think a lot of people get mad too. There was people who got frustrated, like, do you not care? No, I freaking care. I mean, obviously I care, but I'm not a politician. I'm not in the ring. And if I want to be in the ring, then I have to go down a different road. And I don't want to go down that road. And I think there was a time where I had to check myself, this isn't what you want. Like, this isn't, and I get it. We're vocal. And when we do have platforms, and I have a small platform compared to other people, but when we have platforms, we need to use them for good things, that at least that's what I feel. And that's what I want to do with mine. So I want to bring light to the world, and I want to bring healing, and I want to bring encouragement and strength. And it wasn't happening. And I'm like, I have to be somebody's bright light, not somebody's negative light. And I don't need to hurt somebody to be right, because no matter what in that situation, you were going to hurt one side. One side was really hurt, no matter what side it was. I mean, it doesn't matter, and I noticed that, and I'm like, it's not worth it. I have people I love that it's not worth hurting them for, to be right on social media. So I think it's really important for people to see that and learn. Again, emotional intelligence comes into play, but also healing your traumas in past, because a lot of people who are who've experienced a lot of trauma in their life were reacting because they were triggered.
Yes.
I hate the word triggered because I think it's just a shitty word to use to say you're bugging me and I don't want to deal with it. I mean, that's really what it is. Whenever we feel these feelings, they're on us. They're not on the other person. Now, that doesn't mean somebody's not doing anything wrong. I just don't like the word triggered, but it's definitely what was happening. People would get these things and they'd be like, well, that's your fault. No, why are you feeling that way? I think we have to really dig into ourselves, and that takes a high level of awareness.
Yes.
And there's a lot, but again, I do feel that the world is shifting into awareness, and it's happening at a fast rate. But we have to be the bright lights in the dark. But again, we come back to this: the positive, the negative, the light, the dark, the good, the evil. It's all the same thing. You have to have one without the other, right? For every positive reaction, there's an equal or greater negative reaction. Is that right? Or if you want to say it the other way, whatever it
Actually,
is.
you're right. I mean, that's science. That's what I learned in engineering school,
And it applies to everything in life. Like, I just think it's crazy. And fun fact, Einstein cheated on his wife with his first cousin, I want to say. Isn't that funny? I don't know why I just thought of that, but every time I think of science, I always go to Einstein. But you know what? It's so funny when you think of pop culture. We'll go back to this really quick and how I kind of got crabby with it. Like, think about if we had that level at when he was around, because he was coming in kind of during, he was around in World War II. So he was against Hitler, and because he was German, I'm pretty sure he was German. And he was really nervous about what they were creating and worried about the science community, because Germans obviously had some of the best science and technology. They had incredible technology. And so it's just interesting. I think about what it would have been like if that would have happened in the time now, like how we would pop, like have it all over the magazines, like Einstein's dating first cousin, wife's pissed, like I just laugh because we look at these people and, we forget that he was kind of different, like, yes, he was a genius, but what about that one time, like we're all shit shows. Einstein was a shit show too. Chelsea, you can put that on the headline. Einstein was a shit show too. Get with the program. We're all shit shows. I mean, like, that's seriously what it should be. Like, everybody, I think, I was having a morning this morning and I was laughing, and I actually wasn't bothering me as much as I was just like, holy crap, things are still happening to me. I was like, this is going to be funny one day. This is going to be funny. But it's crazy because when you think about what was someone remembered for, they weren't remembered for the cousin that, maybe he was a little quirky. They were remembered for the really good things they did. The really good things they did. So if you're good, you'll be remembered.
And to think about Einstein too, he had thousands of failures before the light bulb. Mm-hmm. It was documented that he gave thanks 100 times a day.
Yep.
Like
his gratitude was through the roof. And that isn't that funny? The scientist whose gratitude, which this also applies in what we're talking about, gratitude is everything. And when I read that about 7 years ago, I think I read that, and I kind of blew it off 7 years ago. And then when I got back into gratitude real heavy, I was like, you know what? That's interesting. The people who had the most gratitude did the most insanely incredible things. Mm-hmm. All good things. And change the world. You change the world through gratitude and love. I think that's really important. But yeah, Chelsea, I want the show to be Einstein was a shit show too. It's okay. That's the show. And I think that'll grab people. I don't know about you guys, and God and science do go together. I think that's so fun. But Tiffany, this has been incredible. I love you. I think everybody needs to know who you are, because you have healed me. In the last few weeks, my life has been all over. I'm very honest about that. I've had so many great things happen. I've had windfalls. I think I've talked to you about that. I think like 3 weeks ago, I had like 4 big windfalls. I'm like, what? And then I just had the rug pulled out this morning, and I was like, wait. So I'm like constantly like, what's happening? And it's just because I'm going through this massive growth and healing, because I'm actually healing some things. And I'm going to tell you that every time I heal something, there's really good things that happen, and then more stuff comes up, because I'm like, yeah. I'm in a cycle. Yeah. I have to get rid of this. And so I just want everybody to know that you can heal your shit. I mean, I think that's really important to know, because sometimes we feel like we can't, and you really can. And there are people like Tiffany who can help you very quickly. And when I say quickly, I mean, if you get in a booking with her, I'm talking within, in that first hour, you're going to heal more stuff and probably see pain and a lot of things leave in that first hour. And so you have to understand that this is incredible. It's science. It's real. It's been proven. Mm-hmm. And there's no joke. I've experienced it. I continue to experience it. We work together almost daily, if not weekly, me and Tiffany, because we're really working on some things. But I definitely want you to go find her. We will post all her information on here. So don't worry if you missed it. We're going to make sure that you guys get this. If you're listening or set it up, we'll make sure it's available on our website or links. So we'll make sure. So it's been incredible. Tiffany, anything you want to say before we wrap this episode?
Well, I would just say, like Shylo said, you can heal yourself. I believe God created you to heal. I believe that we all came here for a specific purpose. And sometimes it's going through, like you say, the shitstorm to find the purpose. But what's waiting on the other side, that's the biggest thing. What's waiting on the other side can be beyond your wildest dreams. It's just take that time and learn about you. Take the time to focus on you to get the healing, because you will get more clarity about every aspect of your life once you can start healing within.
Absolutely. Well, I absolutely love it. And this has been another episode of Grit and Grace with Shylo Ekstrom. And this has been awesome. We love you, Tiffany.
Yes.
And I cannot
Thank
wait
you.
to get you on here again and talk about all the good things coming for you. Thank you,
Okay,
everybody.
thanks.
For listening.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to and watching Grit and Grace. Subscribe to us on Spotify or Apple iTunes to listen, and download the Lux TV app to watch anytime, anywhere.
Now, glutathione is a big word, but it's the body's own master antioxidant. So it's a scavenger for free radicals, for bacteria, and what's relevant now, viruses. This is new to the marketplace. There's no other product on the market that has the ingredient NACET.
And basically NACET increases the production of that glutathione that is in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system and keep it strong. Elevated sense of well-being. Supports muscle strength and endurance. Cognitive function. Powerful liver support. Energy. Helps blood sugar regulation. Superior bioavailability of key ingredients.
One of your best defenses against COVID is a strong immune system. Taking GSH Plus as a daily supplement does all that. And now we have the product out on the marketplace.
It is Shylo Ekstrom out of Duluth, Minnesota. I am here with Robert